Hello everyone, this is Yours Trivia, and since today is Chinese Lunar New Year, I thought we could spend some time talking about the dragons of Grand Cathay to shine some light on some of their background lore, as well as their inspiration from Chinese mythology, from little things like how their names is written in Chinese to other aspects such as the four cardinal directions guardian beast, and so forth. And kicking things off, we have Shen, the Dragon Emperor. Now Shen, literally meaning the divine young, is not a god, as dragons look down upon the gods of other races for requiring worship. Instead, dragons are powerful, semi-divine immortal beings who have ruled over the land of Grand Cathay for several thousand years. Dragons are masters of all elements, for they practice FENG, meaning the divine wind in Chinese, which is a form of high magic. In particular, the Dragon Emperor has ultimate mastery of the Young Winds, which is a subset of the 8 winds of magic that includes life, fire, heavens, and light. Of these, Shen Yang's favorite is the lore of heavens, as he and his team of astromancers utilize their mastery of it to drop the warpstone meteor on the ogres all these years ago to form the Great Maul. Now, spending most of his time detached from his people, the Dragon Emperor busies himself in the Celestial City, working on long-term projects unbeknownst to his people, while leaving the running of the empire to his 9 dragon children. Meanwhile, his opposite, the Moon Empress, named Yin, meaning literally the osmanthus Yin, has ultimate mastery over the lore of Yin, which includes beast, metal, death, and shadows. And for those who are unaware, the osmanthus tree, or the Gui Shu in Chinese, is associated with a Chinese folklore depicting that in front of the Moon Palace stands a 500-meter tall osmanthus tree that possesses immense regenerative powers, which inspired many poets to write poems where Gui was used as a character replacement for the moon, which is a clever reference used by Games Workshop to come up with Gui Yin's name. Preferring to work in the shadows, Gui Yin is the ultimate shapeshifter, as she is known to guide the people of Cathay without them knowing, as she takes the form of a common archer, or as a healer, or even as a wild horse to help the peasant horsemen better communicate with their steeds. But apart from her loving embrace of the civilians of Grand Cathay, she's also the head of a vast spy network that stretches across the entire empire, as her agents, known as the Many-Eyed or Onyx Crowmen, seek out the agents of chaos at work within Grand Cathay to maintain order and harmony. Now, even though we do not know everything about their 9 dragon children, we do have some information, as we'll begin our discussion with Miao, the Storm Dragon. As the ruler of the northern provinces, Miao commands the armies of the Great Bastion, defending Grand Cathay from the ruinous powers of the north. Cold and aloof, Miao is the firstborn child of the Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress, and is also their favorite child. Her name, Miao, literally meaning wondrous shadow, hints at her mastery of the lore of shadows, but storm also brings an element of water, which is why she also specializes in the lore of life, which is associated with the water element in Grand Cathay. Now, unlike his smug older sister, who believes she is superior to all her siblings, Yuan, the Jade Dragon, is the universally well-liked eldest son in the family. With a name that literally means the foremost eldest brother, Yuan is most likely the second-born of the Dragon Emperor and the Moon Empress, even though it is still possible that he could have more than one older sister. Not known for his military feats, unlike his other siblings, Yuan dwells in the imperial capital of Weijing, attending the business of running such a vast empire in an efficient and dependable manner, while his father tackles unknown projects in the celestial city above. And like father, like son, Yuan is also known to favor the lore of heavens, as it is associated with the stone element in Grand Cathay, which his namesake of the Jade Dragon alludes to. Now, after these two, the order of the siblings is a complete mystery, so we'll start with Zhao Ming, who we know the most about. with a name literally meaning the illuminating light, referencing the sheen of metal. Zhao Ming, the metal dragon, naturally favors the lore of metal, which, like how his eldest sister favors the lore of life, happens to fall in the opposite yin-yang subdivision. But from his fire-breathing attack, it's clear that he is also a representation of the Lord of Yang with his fire magic, while Shadow Talon and Lightning Breath of Miao Ying is also representative of the Lord of Yin. And as the ruler of the western provinces, Zhao Ming is tasked with defending the empire from potential incursions from the west. But surprisingly, Zhao Ming and the over-tyrant of the Ogre Kingdoms to the west, Greece's Goattooth, have been political allies ever since Greece made a joke at their shared parental issues during a trade negotiation. And speaking of such parental issues, Zhao Ming has always been the oddball of the family. Unfavored by his father and siblings alike, Zhao Ming resembles the rebellious younger brother who purposely befriends his human subjects to the displeasure of his own family. Aside from these oddities, Zhao Ming's interest in alchemy also concerns his family, as he openly welcomes alchemists into his court to study the unique properties of warpstones and exotic ores that litter his land. But at the end of the day, Zhao Ming has never, and would never, betray his family, nor has the Western lands come under any security threats under his rule, and his tense family issues is often alleviated by his caring mother, who loves him the most of all her children, as she actively shields him from confrontations at family gatherings. Now, with the north and west covered, we also know that Li Dao, the fire dragon, reigns over the southern provinces, as he defends Grand Cathay from the bordering kingdoms of Ind and Kuresh. Hot-tempered and bitter of his father's favoritisms towards his older sister Miao Ying, Li Dao feels like he contributes just as much, if not more, towards security of the empire. With a name literally meaning fire prayer, as Li refers to the 8 trigram symbol for fire, Li Dao rules from the city of Fu Huang, playing off the sound of the Chinese word for phoenix, which is Feng Huang, as it is the southern guardian beast in Chinese mythology, which is also known as a vermilion firebird, or phoenix in the west. And this is probably why, apart from being a dragon, Li Dao is also known as the Lord of the Phoenix, and as a potential future playable legendary lord for Grand Cathay, leading the current in-game faction known as the Burning Winds, I would imagine his arrival would add more flying units and potential Beastman units into the Grand Cathay roster, as he's also known to have worked with the Monkey King, whose relationship with the dragons of Grand Cathay changes from time to time, as during a period of the Dragon Emperor's absence, the Monkey King had openly rebelled, only to be put down when the Dragon Emperor returned. But at the same time, his kingdom of monkey warriors have been recorded to team up with Li Dao as allies, working together to protect Grand Cathay from common foes in the south. Then to the east, there is Yin-Yin, the sea dragon, who rules the eastern province from the city of Fuchao, which is probably a reference to the important port city of Fuzhou in China, and is the commander of the Grand Dragon Fleet, tasked with protecting Grand Cathay's coastline from the Dark Elves and other human nations to the east, aka Nippon. Yin-Yin is unlike many of her dragon siblings, as she supports active expansion, which can be seen in her efforts to launch a massive invasion of the Southlands in the past. However, her ambitions failed miserably due to Slan's intervention, leading her to lose favor with the rest of the family due to the staggering amount of resources and manpower wasted on her failed invasion. Aside from these 5 dragon siblings who we know by name, there is also Shen, the light dragon, whose name literally means the divine pearl. Central to the plot of the Warhammer 3 narrative, Shen is said to have ventured north beyond the Northkin Mountains before disappearing, and her disappearance has thrown the Cathayan Empire into disharmony as her light is missing. So now Miao Ying and Zhao Ming seek to find her, as they end up working with the Visor to rescue Urson, the Kislev bear god, as he is known to have seen her last. Now that leaves 3 unaccounted dragon siblings, as they have been described as lost to time in the little lore that we have. But one such dragon has been referred to as having passed into the spirit realm, which for Grand Cathay is one of its mighty rivers in the north that separates the mortal realms from that of the spirits. And I believe there's also an in-game lore reference to how the Dragon Emperor weeps every time he passes by the river, thinking of his lost child that lies beneath it. And that is really all we know about the dragons of Grand Cathay right now. Hopefully future DLCs for Warhammer 3 or added lore from Games Workshop will add more to our story. And as always, since you watch all the way to the end, hopefully you enjoy this video enough to drop a like, as it will help this video reach more people who might enjoy it, and consider subscribing to the channel for more Warhammer 3 content like this in the future. So until next time, bye!